I can do all kinds of spiritual adventures. But in the end of the day, I have to show up. I have to be there. The mushroom is not going to do the work for me. The sound bath is not going to do the work for me. Praying to God is not going to do the work for me. I have to be present. I have to breathe. I have to see how it feels in my body. And then I have to do the work. I have to do the process. And without any of that, I think that's where the spiritual bypass comes in, where people I just let it go. Well, how'd you let it go? I just did. Bullshit. It's shoved down there somewhere and you're going to explode one day.
Welcome to Daily Power Boost. I'm Sean Michael. This isn't a podcast about pushing harder or fixing yourself. It's a space to see clearly how your experience is actually being created. Each episode offers a simple shift in understanding. Not a tactic, not a hustle. A clearer view of thought, identity, and the patterns you've been living inside. Because when misunderstanding drops, relief rises, energy returns. You move forward with calm, sovereign clarity. This is your Daily Power Boost. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Today's conversation is about identity. Not the kind we consciously choose, but that one we quietly inherit. That belief that something about us is already wrong and we need to fix it or override ourselves in order to move forward. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Barbilee Hemmings, and her work sits at the intersection of embodiment, leadership, and truth-telling. She challenges performative confidence, spiritual bypass, and the pressure many women carry to override their own knowing in order to belong, succeed, or stay safe. This is a conversation about what happens when an old identity stops fitting the season you're in and what becomes possible when you stop trying to fix yourself and start listening more honestly. Welcome, Barbilee.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a good conversation.
Yes, I'm excited for the conversation as well. Yeah. Now, many people assume their struggles come from the things they haven't figured out yet, right? Often, I would say, and perhaps you agree, that they're living from an identity that might say, I'm already wrong. Mm-hmm. So before we talk about your work, what part of your own journey feels essential for people to understand about who you are over what you do?
I love that. It's being present, being a human being, right? Or a spiritual being and a human being and co-creating with that. It puts me in a position to say, we've got this duality, we've got this co-creation. And on the human side, I grew up with a particular religion that said we are inherently flawed and that we have to beg for forgiveness, and that if we don't do this, we're going to go there, and it's pretty hot there. And that's not who I am, because if I'm this spiritual being having this human experience, that must not be who I am. So growing up with that and then having this realization and then learning who I really am, it changes everything. Not who people think I should be, not who I thought I should be based on I'm the youngest, I'm the baby, it's who I really am. And that's a process. And that's what brought me to doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. It is a process. It's a very worthwhile process, I would even say. Now, you had said this in our earlier conversation, that many women live from that I'm already wrong identity. Or like you just shared, you grow up in an environment where you're flawed and you've got to beg, borrow, and steal to earn your way out of being that. Where can you expand on where you see this getting installed? Where does this begin?
So from birth, someone wears pink, someone wears blue. We're identified, right? The piece that I became aware of in my sixth grade because we had a split, a 5-6 split. And I was in the sixth grade and we had some fifth graders and we're like, oh, fifth graders, I don't want fifth. And that kind of, but it really brought me to the awareness that grades are subjective, right? If the fifth and sixth graders could be in the same class, why do we even have grades? And then it got me on this path. And by the time I was a school teacher, I started noticing how girls have a very particular, oh, if she's quiet in the corner, she must be a good student. She's probably one of the ones struggling the most with self image and what the magazines have told her. And today, all social media has told her. Whereas the boys are typically the ones that are rambunctious and they get diagnosed. But the girls sit back. And then by the time high school rolls around, they don't get to be in the things like STEM and all their science and technology and all that kind of stuff. And so, right from the beginning, we should be seen and not heard, and sometimes not even seen. And there's things like don't throw like a girl. That's an insult. Or don't cry like a girl. That's an insult. Put on your big girl panties. Well, what does that even, you know what I mean? There's so much around this woman femininity that women just, I see them curl up and just try not to be seen and don't make waves. And then perimenopause hits and the whole world blows up.
For sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
how would you say these early conditioning and beliefs that develop through it shape later decision making? Like when we get into the
They're everything.
workforce or raising a family.
That they're everything. The messages that women get throughout their lifetime is you're supposed to be a mom. Well, what if some women don't want children for a multitude of reasons, right? They want a career or they just don't like the smelly little things that we call them petri dishes sometimes, right? But then they're shunned because they're supposed to want to be a mom. But then they're supposed to want to work, but they're also supposed to take care of the home, but they're also supposed to nurture the family, and they're also supposed to still keep in contact with all the family and friends and still host Christmas dinner. And there's so many supposed tos, what women should do. And until they typically break down and they have that breakthrough, hopefully, God, let's hope they have that breakthrough to say enough is enough. But right from the first job we get, we know we make less than men. We know that many times, like in a corporate world, the CEO is a man and the secretary is the woman. And the woman does all the work, per se, like the hands, whatever, and he gets the credit. So even in situations like that, and then the teaching was the only, teaching and nursing are really one of the two professions where women, quote unquote, dominate. But then you have the doctors, and but in just world, like in general, women just go, well, this is the way it is. And I don't think it's a conscious thought for many of us. Because when I woke up to the fact that, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me, and I started looking around and I was like, why is it just all of a sudden now at 35? That's when I noticed it for me. Was it not working for me when it worked for me up until that point? And I don't remember what it was. I just remember going, whoa, I don't like this. And then figuring out and getting on that path of, I want a better quality of life. I want something bigger, better, more juicy, more delicious.
Right. And as we said, it's all about conditioning, right? It's conditioning from parents, from culture. It comes from everywhere.
Yeah. There's a wonderful book, The Four Agreements.
Mhm.
Have you
I
ever read
have.
it? My favorite book. I give it to anybody who's anybody in my life. And I say, if you don't read it, here's the YouTube link. It's the full book in audio. And there's a piece in there where he calls it the consciousness of the planet. And that's one of my favorite expressions because it's not something that I did or didn't do. I'm not broken. I didn't think differently. It's just this consciousness of the planet. It's just kind of that's how things are. And until I realized that I didn't like how things are, I was there in the consciousness of the planet.
Right or wrong, we're there.
Exactly.
So then what happens? when the body starts rejecting this identity that the mind is trying to hold on to.
Hmm. For me, it took my voice away physically, literally. I had chronic laryngitis for 18 months. Now imagine being a school teacher with chronic laryngitis. That doesn't work. The body will do what the body needs to do. When I look back on that time, 2 years prior, when I was teaching, I dislocated my shoulder. I literally fell off a chair and hit the blackboard and dislocated my shoulder. Right? I had an episode where I slipped in the hallway and gave myself a concussion. I had these things that the universe provided to me, and I just kept on pushing forward until finally it said, "Oh, Barbilee, I get it. You're stubborn. Okay, let's take your voice away from you." And for the next 18 months, I was seeing specialists and I was going to allopathic doctors. And I even did body talk and tried to find my past life. I did everything to figure out why I'd lost my voice. And when the process, and when I finally decided that I needed to leave teaching, I've never lost my voice since. I still teach, I just do it in a different way. I'm just not in the classroom in that box, that confined
Yeah.
energy.
And I was actually just having this conversation with another guest about suppressed emotions, usually
Mm.
the the ones that are sometimes called negative emotions. We defined it as the challenging emotions, right? The
Mhm.
not fit for TV emotions. Um,
I call them the
the clues.
clues. Anger is a
Right.
clue.
Exactly. And that's what we talked
Frustration is
about.
a
They're all
clue.
clues, they're
Correct.
alerts to let you know, hey, you need to evaluate, you need to check the system, something's not right. And just like you said, we were talking about, she said it starts with a feather and then it's a brick and then it's a
Yeah.
2x4. And if you keep pushing, the Mack truck comes.
Yeah. I always say it was a freight train carrying other freight
I
trains.
remember that in our earlier conversation. A freight train full of freight trains holding freight
Full of freight
trains.
trains. Yeah, good times. Good times.
But, and that's what burnout is, right? Is like
Yeah.
burnout, it's the physical manifestations, like you explained, falling, losing your voice for 18 months with no clear cause.
Yeah.
I had something similar. I was experiencing vertigo.
Mm.
And one day I was walking down the stairs and I slid down the rest of them. I got about 2/3 of the way down and went. Brrr. Now, fortunately, they were house stairs covered in padding and carpet. But my mother in law and my wife came running. They're like, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know. I just blacked out." And I
Yeah.
was going to all these specialists and having all these tests done and couldn't figure out anything. Like everything seemed to be working normal. I left the job, problem was gone.
Isn't that funny?
Yes. So the
Right?
key is is
We,
is are we paying close enough attention?
that's what I was just going to say. It's finding that moment, and it's a moment. It's a breath in a moment to check in, right? And now I don't do anything without checking in. For me, it's a hell yes or a hell no. We were out the other night. It was lovely. It was an I live in Mexico and they had an expat meetup and it was great. We were having this conversation and I've been talking to these people for maybe an hour or so and I was like, I'm done with the small talk and the chit chat, And so I was talking to this couple over here and they went right into politics. And I'm like, I'm out. I said to husband, I said, we're done. And he goes, okay, we're done. And because I was out, because once you get involved, and what I notice is sometimes when there's a group of people, it tends to, you start with the niceties, but then they default into something that they think everybody has the same opinions about or has a strong opinion about. And that's
Or
typically
even wants to talk
politics.
about.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to. That doesn't fit in my vibe whatsoever. And so I just said, good night, everybody. Have a great night. And it was lovely meeting you. And off I went. And I got a text message from one of the ladies. She goes, oh, you left early. I said, no, I left exactly when I needed to leave. And her comment was, I love that about you. Sorry, you might have to bleep that out. But she said, I love that you know your boundaries so clearly. And I said, it took me years to know it. And it wasn't until I hit the boundary with my head full on before I realized that, hey, I've made that boundary. If I make a better one, I call it my violet bubble. When I make that better boundary, because it moves around and it sometimes gets bigger with lots of good people and shrinks down if I'm around not such great conversations. But it's that breath. It's in that moment. How am I feeling? And it's a breath. It's how we know we're alive. So if we go all the time, we're not living. If we go all the time, we're not living. It's the in and out. It's the flow. Right. You mentioned in the intro about spiritual bypass. A lot of people, and I know people have different definitions and stuff, but when people just say, oh, let go and trust, I'm like, no. Like, yes and no, because you haven't trusted yourself up until this point, and you're part of the process, my friend. So you can trust that God, spirit, universe, potato will take care of it. Sure. But you're part of that. So get off your assets and start digging in, baby.
Yes. Yeah. It takes action, right? You've got to take the steps. It's like the old story I've heard. The floodwaters come. You've heard it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, God, send me rescue. And the boat comes, the helicopter comes, all these things come. And he drowns and he goes to heaven. He's like, why didn't you send rescue? He's like, dude, I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter.
I know. And I work with a lot of women, especially and I've been doing this for 20 years. And I typically, in my coaching and in the quality of life assurance, I find people that are like me. So I've kind of grown up over the last 20 years with people. And in this part of life, like I'm 56, and when I'm talking to 50-ish-year-old women, they're like, wow, I haven't even thought about that yet. And I'm like, but you're 50, you're 55, you're 65. But like the lady I spoke to 2 nights ago, she's like, well, you just give me permission to dance. I said, baby, you don't need my permission. She goes, well, I'm not going to dance if you're not dancing. I'm like, let's go and dance. When we got up and it never occurred to her that if she felt moved to dance, she should just dance.
And shake your booty,
because
girl.
She wasn't supposed to. That is her bringing. You do not, you wait for a man to ask you to dance, or there's a group of women dancing, but you do not dance on your own. That was her belief. Right. Until she met somebody who went, well, I'm dancing. I'm dancing here in the street. There was no dance floor.
And one of my mentors called those rules.
Ah, yes.
Right? They're the rules that we have installed either through conditioning, inherited, or even our own silliness. They're BS rules. I've seen it in my coaching and in some of my coach training. Somebody desires to be loved and connected. So the next question is like, okay, well, what does that look like? When do you feel love and connection? And when they give their rule, it's like, well, no wonder you don't feel love and connection. Like, who can meet that standard? Like, it's not possible. Yeah. And like you said, we're often navigating through this life with bad rules, conditioning, and we're operating on autopilot.
I'm not a fan of the word bad rules. I would say inconvenient rules.
Ineffective.
I would say outdated rules, ineffective, because when I put a label like bad or good, that means that there's just more attachment to it in that sense. So when I'm talking to people because let's say, I remember years ago we were in New Orleans and it was just after one of the big hurricanes had gone through there. And we met a man and he was like devastated because his house was gone, his business was gone, he was devastated. And then the very next day we met a man that was so humbled and with the blessings of this hurricane, because it saved his business because he's in construction. And so the exact same situation, but two completely different perceptions of that. It wasn't good or bad. It just what is what we do with the information. So if we're surrounded by these rules and they're stifling and they don't serve me, well, maybe they're not the right rules for
Right.
me.
Time that should be our clue to reevaluate them.
Yes, correct. That's juicy right there. Reevaluation. Both of my daughters are pilots. And there's an expression in flying: correct and continue. You're always off course. You are always off course. You're going this way. You're going this way. You're going this way. You got to get a bit of this. There's a little bit of an airflow. There's a whatever those things are called, the air pockets. You're always off course. Correct and continue.
And I always think of, like the pilot, they notice we're off and they make small adjustments, right? Because
Correct.
if they were way off and they did an abrupt move, the whole cabin would panic, right?
Correct.
And I'll compare that to our life. Like when we notice things aren't working and for us and think we're off course, it's not about big, bold moves. Not always. We did a very big, you're living in a foreign country. Those were pretty big, bold moves,
Yeah.
but they're not for everybody. I often encourage people, it's just about what's the micro shift you can make today that changes your course a bit.
Yeah.
And then, like you just said, check and correct, check and correct,
Yeah.
check and correct. Or as
Yeah.
iterate.
Yeah. I tell my clients a lot, like especially when they're starting on our wellness program, and I will say, you can start big and use one of our systems and all that. But while you're waiting, wake up in the morning and drink a glass of water. Just that's all.
Right.
Have a glass of water on your bedside table, 6 to 8 ounces. And just drink it. Don't chug it. Like just drink it
Bit
as you're
normal,
waking
yeah.
up. Don't make a big deal of it. Now, if you want to go a little further, squeeze some lemon in it. And a little bit further, a pinch of iodized salt. But nothing more than that. Don't do anything else. It's just a glass of water with a little lemon. Prepare it before you go to bed. Prepare a bucket of it in your fridge and just fill up your glass before you go to bed. And that one thing propels them, because now they have electrolytes in the morning. They've got the cleansing of the lemon. They've hydrated first thing in the morning, because typically people go for their coffee and now they don't feel they need the coffee because the electrolytes of the salt and the lemon have given them a little bit of energy, so they don't drink their coffee or have it a little bit later, that kind of thing. That's not very hard,
Right.
right? You want to
No
walk?
special supplements or
Nothing.
gear required. It's
Nothing
all things we
required.
all have in our house.
Exactly. You go to the grocery store, you're buying groceries. Don't look for the spot. Don't spend 10 minutes looking for a spot closest to the door. Park at the edge of the parking lot and walk that extra bit. And then walk your groceries with your cart and then walk the cart. Don't be one of those people and leave your cart in the parking lot. Don't be one of those people. Take it back to the cart guard, whatever it's called, the cart
Cart
gate, right?
corral.
Always be that person, the cart corral. But those little things, and that's the same thing about, like, I did not just pack up everything on a whim and move to Mexico. It was a process, almost 20 years. Not that I planned to move here, but it was a process of me creating an online income, creating a relationship with my children that could survive me being in Mexico and them being in Canada, and creating the income to be able to do this, creating the health and vitality so that I don't have to worry about medical conditions and stuff in a foreign country, right? It didn't just happen.
Right. That's
It's a
what seen
process,
from
and
the
life's the
outside.
process.
Yeah, it's the same thing for
Exactly.
me. We didn't just pack everything up and leave one day. Like there was a process,
Yeah.
that there were steps that we went through. There were deep heart conversations we had,
Hmm.
and at the time I remember my wife was going to leave a 15-year career, and she initially panicked because it's like, if I don't work in this company anymore doing what I've been doing. Like, who am I?
Yeah.
And I see this again and again and again because we're not aware. We're just we're following our rules. Some serve, some aren't serving our life, bringing us joy. And something changes, right? A layoff, a retirement, a decision to move to another country, and it shakes us to the core. Or, like you said,
Yeah.
the natural progression of things when Perry comes to town, and that shakes everything up.
Best friend Perry. One of the things I think, because I get this question a lot from women, is like, how can you leave your children? Or how can you leave your grandchildren? And they think that, again, this is that societal norm that I'm supposed to live next door to my grandbabies and be at the beck and call of my daughter to babysit whenever she needs a sitter. I called her up one Tuesday. She was going to be busy on the weekend. I said, okay, Lala's coming to babysit on the weekend. I booked a flight. I was there in 4 hours on Thursday when I flew out. It was a 4 hour flight. And I'm there. Like, there's no difference, right? We, like I said, this whole process of getting me to where I am, my husband and my kids are like, they think it's cool. People say, oh, where does your mom live? She's like, Mexico. Your mom lives in Mexico? She just got street cred, man. Even my grandson, when they ask about Lala, well, that grandma, my grandma's name is Lala. And he's like, Lala lives in Mexico. They're like, really? Your grandma lives in Mexico? Yeah, with Lolo. That's my husband, Lolo and Lala. And they're like, wow. Like he's 3 years old and he gets street cred because I think it's kind of cool.
It is. It is
You
funny how
know?
people think that's cool. I was at an event in San Diego a few weeks ago. And at the beginning of the event, the host says, we had people come in from all over the world. We had somebody fly in from Australia, from Canada, from the UK. We even had somebody come from Guatemala. And
This white dude stands up.
well, I didn't stand up. Like nobody knew who it
Oh,
was. But as I was having
oh,
conversations, they're like, oh, where did you come from? Guatemala. Oh, you're the one.
yeah. That happened to me in October. I was in an event in LA and there was 10 of us in the group. They all had, they were either from like heritage wise, one actually came from El Salvador. But the other ones all were either Cuban or Mexican descent in my group, right? All living in the United States. White chick. I come from Mexico, and they laughed. They thought so they affectionately called me gringo all weekend. But it blew their mind that a 50-year-old woman from Canada wanted to live in Mexico because even they living in America had their stereotypes and their ideals and that the cultural thing about living in Mexico and the States is better, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. But even in that point, what I did was just got them to go, huh, people actually want to live in Mexico. They don't all want to leave like my mother led me to believe. Don't we love our mothers and the lessons they gave us? Oh, God bless my
The good, the
mother.
bad, the ugly. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Now, going back to the spiritual bypass,
Okay.
where have you seen that the spiritual language being used over listening to the body or the truth of the season?
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to offend anybody religiously, so I'm not attacking any religion. I'm going to start there. But spirituality is not religion. And a lot of people confuse the two. Religions have a thought process, and everybody, quote unquote, believes the same thing, right? That's what makes it the religion. So a phrase like let go and let God, a lot of people throw that around. Let go and trust in God. And people throw that around. But like I said earlier, I have to trust in me too, in partnership with God, Spirit, Potato, Allah, Buddha, whatever Bob. It doesn't matter what somebody calls it. But if I'm this spiritual being having this human experience, and I'm not addressing the spiritual side of me in conjunction with the human side of me, I call that a spiritual bypass. If I'm not working on myself, or, okay, so I live in Playa del Carmen, and there's a lot of people that do all kinds of things here. On any given night, I can go to a cacao ceremony. I can go to a Mayan ritual. I can go to drumming. I can go to a sound healing in a cenote. I can do meditation. I can do mushrooms. I can do ayahuasca. I can do all kinds of spiritual adventures. But in the end of the day, I have to show up. I have to be there. The mushroom is not going to do the work for me. The sound bath is not going to do the work for me. Praying to God is not going to do the work for me. I have to be present. I have to breathe. I have to see how it feels in my body. And then I have to do the work. I have to do the process. And without any of that, I think that's where the spiritual bypass comes in, where people just, oh, I just let it go. Well, how'd you let it go? I just did. Bullshit. It's shoved down there somewhere and you're going to explode one day. And I'll be here helping you pick up the pieces or handing you your towels to dry your tears, whatever it's going to be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's this, I've seen it so much, this language, let go, just surrender. And not to discount, yes, there is a certain amount of surrender, right? When we were talking about the spectrum of the more challenging emotions, it was your spouse does something that they always do, and you feel that emotion come up. And in that case, you have some control, right? You can ask questions, you can have a conversation, you can go look for the thing that got misplaced, whatever. But in another case, you can look and you have zero control. Like you're feeling really strong emotion over this, but it's like you can't change anything about it.
Yep.
And letting go, like you said, is often just suppression. That's what people are often doing, where really what we need to do is acknowledge and process, right? Like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really blah, blah over this, but I realize there's nothing I can do. So I like to do a primal scream or something.
Ooh, I like those. I like fire too. I like to burn stuff.
Burns, as I'm teaching my
Yeah.
8-year-old, which, I think I told you before was the blessing. Like we couldn't have
Yeah.
kids living in the US. We move out of the country and boom, we have I don't have a highlighter. Honey, I'm recording. Now I got to edit. I don't have any highlighters, honey.
Run, real baby, go with it. That's the joy of what we do.
Yes.
We do it with our families, not in spite
Right.
of.
But,
Okay.
he's 8 years old and
Yeah.
he's still learning boundaries. But what I was talking about is I am teaching him that there is emotions are emotions. They're part of being human. So feel the emotion, process through it, manage your actions in the emotion. Like I tell him when he's feeling angry, I'm like, go throw your stuffed animals, go punch your
Yeah.
pillow, go outside and scream as loud as you want, because it's not going to hurt anybody. But
Yeah.
that emotions are just energy and motion. And the problem comes is when we don't let them move, right?
Yeah. I look at it like when some people say, oh, I'm just going to surrender or just surrender. Sometimes it's ignore. And when you ignore something, that's when it becomes suppressed and then it's going to show up, right? Like it's going to. So the difference is like, so you're talking about yelling, primal. And for me, and I learned this when I was a drama teacher in junior high. We did this improv game called Yes and. Have you ever played it?
I don't remember playing it.
It's just a game where you're like, the teacher says, okay, you are a Italian truck driver in Fort McMurray. I was from Alberta. From Fort McMurray. And I go, yes, and then she picks another one, right? And then someone will stop and go, yes, and then we just have to change we always had to say yes, and. Anyway, they turned into some crazy, crazy improv things. So when I was raising my kids, I was like, yes, and. Yes, you're angry. And now what? Do you need to scream? Do you want to go? We had a plant that we yelled at because when you give it CO2, it flourishes. So we yelled at this one plant. It was great. It grew into this ficus tree. It was beautiful. And when we did the yes and I still do that with grown-ups. Did he tick you off? Yes. And what? My girlfriend just texted and said, somebody sent me a picture. She started dating this guy. He was snuggling up to some girl one night while she was out of town. I'm like, yeah, he's a blank. And, well, I guess it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, and we just walked her through the process because, yeah, are you upset because somebody dated you and there was no rules, they had no exclusivity, but she had her own understanding. She set her own limits, her own boundaries on that. And when we realize that sometimes what we want, say, do, the other person has no idea about, and we expect them to, and then it causes frustration or anger, or call it any one of these other clues. And my husband and I were having this conversation this morning. I said to him, you don't make me angry. You do things that make me think of something that might tick me off. But sometimes you do that exact same thing and I laugh it off and I ignore it. So what's the commonality? Me, 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 me. You're doing the same thing. It's got to be about me. And then I take responsibility for that. And then that way, I actually do the work and I'm actually doing the process. I'm not sitting back and just going, oh, well, I guess that's just the
Just
way
let
it is.
go.
I guess
Just let
just let
go.
it go. Yeah, just ignore it. Just let it go.
Sunshine and
No.
rainbows.
Yeah. And then one day you see in the headlines, crazy Canadian kills her. No, I'm kidding.
Right. Yeah. Well, like the old,
That's
it's not as prominent now in the US, but we had the saying when somebody went a little over the top, we
yeah,
called it going postal
right. Because of that
because
one
of the
situation where
situation where
somebody lost
somebody,
their
yeah,
cool.
somebody,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're using the terminology Karen today.
right.
Right? Something happened. We use go Brandon, like all kinds of, we have our own cultural things and we've always had them. And the question is, and this is what I always try to come back to the question is, what would happen if? What would happen if you weren't triggered by that anymore? What would happen if that became a glimmer and not a trigger? What would happen if that was a clue? What would happen if you removed yourself from that cohort of friends? What would happen if you ate this instead of that? You know what I mean? Like, start playing in the what if in the good ways, because so often we focus on what if this goes wrong. And when I talk about my business all the time and I compare it to life insurance, car insurance, all that kind of stuff, because when we do car insurance, and don't get me wrong, y'all want that kind of stuff, but that's always just in case something goes wrong. When I focus on assurance, what am I doing to assure that things go right? Okay, so what would happen if you had all the energy you wanted when you woke up in the morning? Well, how would your life change? People go, what? What would happen if you lost 50 pounds? What? I could lose 50 pounds. What would happen if all of a sudden you started making some residual ink? What? I could have more ink and start opening the brain to different things. That's doing the work.
Yeah. Opening ourselves up to possibility and potential.
Yeah.
In a
Let's do it.
positive way rather than the way we traditionally do it, the old waiting for the other shoe to drop or there's a lot of value in looking at the bright side. And when you were talking about you're clear in your relationships that we run that same rule. You cannot make someone feel anything. I cannot make,
Yep.
and it works both ways, right? We acknowledge my wife, my son cannot make me angry. They can't make me happy either.
Exactly. That's key. Say it again.
They
Say it
can't
again,
make me
man. Say it
angry,
again.
and they can't make me happy.
Yeah.
That's me. That's on me. And it comes down to, what is the story I tell myself about what they said, what they do? What are the thoughts that are circling when that happens? Because our whole world is just thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't mean that in a woo woo. Some people say, oh,
Nope.
it's the reality we see. It's just like the perspective you said. The guy in Louisiana was distraught because everything he owned was destroyed. And from that thought and from that perspective, yeah, that's terrible. The other guy is like, this saved my business because now I got all this work to do. Now that's circumstances. But at the same way, I could look at the house burned down. Well, now I can get new furniture.
Right? I can
I
move.
can
I didn't
move
like this
easy. It'll
place
be
anyway. I
easy.
can move.
And that hits home, Barbilee, because right now
Yeah.
we're in a home we love, but the location, and there's a lot of things we love, but like every time we want to go out of our complex, it's a nightmare. It
Mm,
can take me 10 minutes to get to the supermarket or an hour to get to the supermarket, and it's a roll of the dice. So we said, well, let's move to a new location closer to the capital where we don't have to get in the car to go anywhere. We can walk.
yeah. Perfect.
And we lived that in another city. Like we had a 9-month-old baby, 1-year-old baby. The stroller was our grocery cart. Like he rode in the
Right?
top and all the groceries, and we walked everywhere
Good
because
dad.
we were in a little town. We could walk to the different
Yeah.
supermarkets. We could walk to the open market, and it was amazing because the only time I ever needed to get the vehicle out was if we were going to go up the mountain to go to another city. And
Yeah.
it was so freeing, and we want that back. But we expanded into a 280 square meter house. Now we're looking at shrinking it down to 100 square meters. So it's like we got to get rid of stuff. And
Yeah.
the one thing that I would have liked to hold on till the last minute was the first thing that people bought, our desks.
Yeah. That's even out here, that's a big seller. Yeah.
You know, like the washing machine, we've had nibbles because we have two
Yeah.
washing machines because the first one died, and I need to go to Mexico and get the part because it's available in Mexico, but it's not, I can't
Oh,
find it in Guatemala. It's actually on Amazon in Mexico. It's that simple.
mm. Okay, total sidebar. We have a expats in Playa del Carmen, and I just saw it, like I see it all the time. People jump from Playa del Carmen to Guatemala all the time. So you might just want to post in there and say, "Hey, anybody coming to Guatemala? I need a piece." Just saying.
It, I've definitely
Us
thought about
expats,
that. We go to Mexico
yeah, we
I
cover
go
each
to
other.
Mexico about every 6 months or so,
Oh, there you go.
depending on if I
Yeah,
take a US trip, that shifts things. But
right.
yeah, total sidebar. But
Yeah, you're editing anyway.
raw authenticity,
Raw and
right?
real. So it made me think of something. Right? Is so people often have said I was lucky. Oh, you're so lucky to get to live in Mexico. And again, it wasn't luck. It was a progression of events. It was my process of doing things. And it used to, oh, I'm not lucky. I just worked for this. And I would let it trigger me. And now I look at it as a teachable moment because I've done the work on that word being lucky. And that's the difference. That's how I know I've done the work and I didn't just let it go. Oh, everybody says it, so just let it go. Because it doesn't give me that feeling anymore.
Right.
And that's the piece, right? That's where if I would have just said, "Oh, let it go. Okay, it doesn't bother me," then somebody said, "Oh, what the fuck is it going?"
Right.
I actually kind of giggle
And
now.
I was actually
And I was like,
thinking
"Let it
as we
go,
were
yeah."
talking about that, that line people say, I've healed this already. Really? That's why it still triggers you.
Right? Huh, I didn't think that was going to come up for me again.
All right. So, on this belief, and it's more prominent in women, that I'm already wrong, there's something wrong with me, I'm crippled. How does it show up in leadership and that B word, boundaries, that you mentioned earlier?
Often it doesn't. Women often don't step into leadership until they've hit a wall or somebody has shown them at the other side of it.
Or they
My
got lucky.
grandmother never, right. Yeah, they got lucky. My grandmother, not educated at all, but she had this, she'd call me chicken because chicken noodle soup. I loved her chicken noodle soup. Anyway, she called me chicken. And she would say, chicken. She goes, everybody lives in a box. And that's why the instructions are on the outside of the box. And that's why you need good friends because they'll tell you, well, what's what. And I thought, that's pretty brilliant because if I'm living inside of my little box, I don't know what else is out there without having I call it my coven. And I do that specifically because it triggers some people that I use the word coven because that's witches and witches were burnt at the stake. And I was like, dude, everybody casts a spell when they're talking. That's why we call it spelling. So get over it. Um, but until that peace shows up for somebody, women don't really step into their leadership, or they step over the line and they go into that bitch category, right? Because they don't know where that fine line is, or they hear, oh, it's she's PMSing, or do you know what I mean? Like there's just so much that squash women down from stepping into a leadership position because women are emotional, women are hormonal. You don't know how to trust. There's just so much of that stuff until the woman says, no, I understand me. If you don't understand me, that's a you problem. And not in a negative and
That's
whatever
on
way.
you. Right.
It's on you. Thank you. I like it's a you problem, but that's the BITCH in me. But this understanding, right, that the expression behind every good man is a good woman. There is no expression for a woman like that. Not in our language, not in Spanish, and not in French. I don't know everything in both of those languages, but there's no expression that's a man raises up a woman. No, it's all about the woman supporting the man. So, right from the language that we use, the colloquialisms, the stories that we read, like all kinds of stuff. Don't even get me started on Disney princesses. It's what shows up as a constant reminder. And then I look straight at the women and I'm like, you as a woman, maybe not you personally, but women have birthed every person on this planet. Don't you ever forget that. Nothing happens without women birthing on this planet. Maybe it's time to step and take the power.
Well, yeah, and I would even say yes, it is more prominent, common in women, but these labels in general, right? You used
Mm.
all the classic, like, you know, I hate the ones man up. Don't
Oh,
don't be a
yeah. Just going to say the
the
P
P
word
word, yes.
takes a, or grow a set,
Right. Grow a
right?
set.
The P word is much more stronger than the grow a set. The grow a set, one little flick, you boys are on your knees. Anyways, it's a whole other conversation.
But it sets us up, male or female, for
Yeah.
if we don't fit that mold, that there's something wrong with us. And it does show up in a lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
We either stay away from places where we could shine potentially because it's scary and we believe that I can't do that. I'm not a leader. I'm not a whatever. And instead of just being in our own power, whatever that looks like, our zone of genius, being a man who lived under that. Bad conditioning from father, mother was not much help. But today, yes, I can do the man stuff, the strength and the things that men are better suited for generally,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, I cannot give a birth to a baby. And the old joke says if a man got pregnant, if they actually did give a man pregnant, there would be no more babies born because they would tell
We
everybody, like,
stop the
don't do it. It's
movement.
so terrible. Like that, you'll lose your mind. And what
Yeah.
do women tell each other? They're like, you'll forget about all of it. As soon as the baby's born, it's all
Fine.
just vanishes away. And being more in touch with being able to operate in both energies, the
Yeah.
masculine and the feminine, one of the things that it gives me is that I can sit and listen and I can hear at that deep emotional level, even when their words don't express it. I call it emotional x-ray vision,
Nice. I like it. Yeah.
honed with 30 years of my wife, because I could look at her and say, what's going on? She's like, nothing.
Yeah. Most dangerous word.
Well,
Better throw her chocolate or something,
right. The woman that
flowers,
says
kiss, a hug.
nothing, or the man that says, I'm fine,
Yeah.
because he's not likely. He's not always fine. We will be honest to a fault in all these other things, but ask him how he's doing, and he'll say he's fine, even though he's falling apart.
And like I know we started this conversation around women and the roles and everything, and at the same time, it's all kind of messed up. Like the about 2 years ago, I found one of those free TV streaming services, and I was like, oh, hey, like I've never watched TV. We've never really owned a TV. I'm like, so what kind of shows are out there and everything? I'm like, and so when I went looking and people started giving me the shows they liked, I started watching them, and I started to see, especially sitcoms, this beautiful, svelte, typically blonde or gorgeous brunette with some frumpy guy. Or he was a schmuck and she was very smart. Or she was the quiet housewife and he was the breadwinner. Like there's just some very specific
Mhm.
stereotypes about roles. And I'm like, we grew up with television. Like I remember having not having a TV and then having a black and white TV and then having a TV that had a remote that still had the wire attached. And you had to go to the TV and find the remote. And then we have a remote. And now we can like zoom in anywhere in the world. Like, so we're of this generation where we were raised on that. And there's so many mixed messages. Like relationships are supposed to be hard. And I was like, yeah, they're work. That doesn't make it hard. We can say I'm not afraid of hard work when we work, but we're not supposed to say that in our relationships that they're hard. Like it's just such many mixed messages. So I'm hoping that with the work that I do and the work that you're doing, that we can change our next generation. I've got two brilliant daughters who have found two amazing men, and they have real conversations in their 20s that I never imagined having with my husband in our 20s. I'm having them in my late 40s and 50s. But based on how I was able to help myself through this process, I got to change that generation. And guess what? They're now having different conversations. Like the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old, they're having different conversations with those kids.
Yes. So
And I was like,
here's
this is
here's your quote that goes
go.
perfectly with what you just said. Educate a woman and you educate a generation.
Hell yeah.
And of course, there's one of my favorite well-behaved women. I've seen this on like frames or whatever. Well-behaved women seldom make history.
Yeah.
So they're harder to find and they're less well known,
Yeah.
but there are.
Yeah.
And I also love this one. A strong woman stands up for herself. And I would even say it's degenerate. A strong person stands up for
Yeah.
themselves. A stronger person stands up for others.
Yeah. I agree. Pure genius.
You're a genius. Sometimes they download
Yeah.
and I just don't know.
Yeah. Here's what I know to be absolutely true. I don't know a lot of stuff for absolute truth. There's some science laws and people are trying to debunk and stuff like that. Spiritual laws, there's some absolute truth. But for me, as a little tiny human having this little experience here, I know 100%, you can never convince me otherwise, that life isn't meant to be juicy and delicious like it is. Life is supposed to be juicy and delicious. Life is supposed to be full of experiences of expansion and greater expression. And if that means when I'm ticked off, I can be really ticked off because that's greater expansion. I get to feel that emotion right down to my toes. Good orgasms, good arguments, good food, good music, good dancing, all of it. I think life is meant to be juicy and delicious. And when I was caught up in my mind and in the what I thought I was supposed to be, and in the job I thought I was supposed to be in, and in living in the city I was supposed to live in because that's where my family was, and then I crashed. And after I stopped doing that, I flourished. Right? Cool. Life is juicy and delicious. That's all I know 100%.
It should be.
Guess what? I'm in charge of it. I'm in charge. I have to take responsibility.
You're in charge of yours. I'm in charge of mine. If you're
That's
listening,
right.
you're in charge of your own life.
Yeah.
So why not make it freaking awesome? Why not? I love Dale Carnegie in How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Love that book.
He
Have
said,
it right here.
he said, if you're happy with your circumstances, your situation, why change? But if you're not, why not experiment? Try something new. Drink that glass of water in the morning. Throw some salt in there. Put Nutella on a pickle. It's actually really freaking good.
What?
It's really good.
Okay. I asked the question, what would happen if? And raise your eyebrows and smile. Don't frown when you say it because then you go, what would happen if? No, what would happen if? Bring your voice up. Ask that question and then create it. And if you don't like it, change
All
it.
right.
Just like that.
Just like you can change the channel on the TV. Whether you
Right?
whether you were the remote control or you had one of those wired thingies.
Sometimes when my husband's making me upset, I close my eyes and he says, look at me. I said, nope, I love your eyes too much. And when I look at your eyes, I can't be mad at you. So I'm closing my eyes. Kind of the same like changing the channel.
Right.
Not really. But these are my choices. These are the things that I get to do that I'm my thoughts, my feelings, or my actions, they turn into my results. And if I don't like my results, it's just on me.
Right. We just have to change the channel, which can mean change our thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, find a way through the feeling we're in so that we can choose a new feeling.
Yeah.
It's like in my own growth and development in my relationship, and for years we hemmed and hawed about, because we saw so many people having multiple kids and like they didn't even seem to want them. And we tried everything. But having our son now, it was like this was the right season because, like you said, with raising your daughters, you had done the work so that you could raise them to have those conversations that they're having in their 20s that you waited till you weren't able to have until much later in life. And being able to show my son not just my unconditional love for him, he's very clear his worth. I asked him one time, how much is a human worth? Or, and he goes, well, kids, he said, I said, how much are you worth? I don't remember exactly. He said, well, kids, actually any human, they're priceless.
Nice.
Because what I, not just what I tell him and I show him and I show it, my wife and I show it between ourselves, is that my love is my love. I'm in control of it. As you said, I'm in control of my anger, my love, whatever. So it has nothing to do, there's nothing to make it stronger, and there's nothing to make it weaker, right? I can't make you angry, and I can't make you happy. And
Yeah.
that right there was that was a lifesaver because my one of my mentors says men will do everything they can to make their woman happy. It's like programmed in or whatever.
Yep.
And he tells the women, he's like, if you don't believe it, test it out. I struggled with that. It's like I'm doing everything I know how to do to make her happy, and she's not happy. And like that's devastating as a guy. But the breakthrough I had was there's nothing I can do to make her happy. I can build conditions to make it more likely, to make it
Yep.
easier, but I cannot make her happy no matter what. That's
True
that's
story.
her task, not mine. I can make myself happy. That's my task. Everybody else, I can build the conditions. I can do my best.
Wouldn't it be amazing if everybody just did their best, like in the four agreements? Always do your best. I heard, I don't know if it was Mel Robbins or Brene Brown. I don't remember who said this. I think it was Brene Brown. But she was saying about a marriage isn't 50-50. It's 100%, 100%. Because if I don't come as 100% Barbie Lee and my husband doesn't show up as 100% Dwayne, well, now we're at 50-50. So I'm only half as good as I can be when I come to my husband? No. Like we really have to, and again, it means like, oh, share the work response. You can't, because there are things my husband can do that I cannot do. He went to Canada for a few weeks. The sink in the bathroom was starting to leak. I wrapped it with paper and changed it every couple of days because I don't know how to fix the sink. It's what he does. There is no 50-50. He is 100% plumber. I am not. There's a little trail of ants. It's Mexico. There's ants everywhere. Honey, there's a trail of ants. Come take care of them. Off I go. He's 100% on the ants. I don't have to,
And that
you
was
know?
Brene Brown, and I actually listened to
Okay.
that a few times. I like the way she put it. You're having a bad day. You don't have the energy to deal with anything. You're
Yeah,
you're at 20. Your best is 20, but your spouse can step up and carry the 80,
exactly.
right? It's
And
not
that's when we
it's
know
not about
ourselves.
balance, it's about like you said, it's about distribution. And this is
Correct.
true in relationships, true in leadership. In good leadership, you bring people around. Okay, well, he's good at Excel spreadsheets. So let them work on the Excel spreadsheets. And she's good with graphics. She's an amazing graphic artist. Okay, let her do the graphic artist and let people shine where they shine.
Yeah.
Stripping away all the labels. Oh, they're this or they're that. What are they good at? Where is their zone of genius? I heard it called once.
Yeah. It's a great book, by the way. If you've never read the book Zone of Genius, it's a great book.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I have to go. I have a few hundred books on standby, and I'm
Yeah.
typically
Yeah.
reading three at a time.
Yeah. There was one, the 15 something principles of leadership, and they talked about zone of genius in there as well. We actually did that one in our church as a book study once. Anyway, but something you got me thinking is the beginning of the conversation when we were talking about boundaries and all that kind of stuff about women. And we are trained, though, that women are supposed to carry the family. They're supposed to, like, men are the breadwinner and they come home and the wife is supposed to take care of them because that's what we saw on TV or that's what the norm was. And today things are so different and the way finances work in our world. And typically both families are, both mom and dad are working and everybody has to come and no, dad doesn't babysit the kids. Dad's parenting just like mom. And there's a whole thing on mental load. Like there's just so much that's coming into the light right now. And thank God for social media for that. because that's how it's coming into the light. The same thing when it comes to perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, all that kind of stuff. Um, and women really are getting to see what the possibilities, right? The probabilities, the what now? What would happen if? And they get to see other things, and men do too.
Right. So that
And
we
it's a
can
beautiful time to be
be in
alive.
partnership and
Exactly.
lift each other up and rise together. And I see that everywhere, whether it's in my home relationships with my son, my wife, it's with people I meet, like you, Barbilee. I don't see competition, right? It doesn't exist in my mind.
Yeah.
It's we're all doing great things. We're trying to make the world a better place by helping people be true to be themselves, to release old identities that weren't even theirs, their chosen identity. It's an inherited
Yeah.
identity.
It's their BS
Right.
system, belief system, whatever you want to call it, BS system. It's their BS. And when I get to have a conversation, even just that little, like the lady dancing the other night, and I gave her permission to dance. I'm like, my job is done today. I got someone to get out of her. And that's all it is. It's just us out here living our lives. We got some news, and I can say this because nobody on here is going to know my daughter. So she's pregnant, and we're not really telling anybody just yet. But anyways, and when my friend called me, he goes, "Just keep having those good babies, Hemmings family." And that's what it is. It's just this. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Women changing their ideals, or men stepping into their own masculine power with their feminine side, the yin and the yang. Women stepping into their femininity, being allowed in their femininity with holding on to their masculine, the yin and the yang. It's amazing. So the more, I don't mean longer like it takes longer, but the more attention that these kind of conversations get, and like your podcast is phenomenal, because then someone gets to hear something and go, "Oh, I never thought of that before. That never crossed my mind. Well, that was an interesting way to do it." Huh. And they may not hear it the first time. They may have to hear it 7 or 8 or 10 or 17 times. But at the end of the day, if we keep speaking our truth, what'd you say? Oh, authenticity, right?
Authenticity.
Liked that word, right? When we come from that place, even if we don't know it. I got a Facebook message the other day. Hey, I've been following you for 2 years. I was like, oh, okay. That's all she said. I've been following you for 2 years. I'm like, thank you. I'm assuming something will come later, and maybe,
Yeah, who
she'll have a
knows?
thought. But I don't know who's watching, doing what. So if I'm out here being Barbilee, the best I can be, whatever that looks like, that's all I can do. And if I can encourage somebody else, I can encourage Sean to be the best Sean, or my husband, Dwayne, to be the best husband, Dwayne, or my children. That's what I do. Because, like I said, life is juicy and delicious.
Grab a hold of it and take a bite.
Yeah. Let it like run down your arms and squirt out and shoot somebody in the
And
eye.
you can appreciate that because you're in Mexico and I'm sure you've
Yeah, yeah.
had the beach mango, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. They just like, they're everywhere, up my nose, stuck in my
Here in
teeth. Oh,
Guatemala,
yeah.
they have like 20 versions of mango, but there's
I
that
know.
particular mango, the ones that get really big,
Yeah.
and
They cut them into a
they
flower.
cut them into a flower. When you see them in the market, in the early season, they're more green with a little red blush. Later in the
Yeah.
season, they start, but they're the ones I love.
I'm mouthing watering.
And
I'm
like you
already
said, when
ready.
they're perfectly ripe, you've got juice running down your arm and it's everywhere, but it's divine. And that's the way life
Yeah,
should be.
I agree.
All right. One final question before I wrap this up, Barbara. If someone was listening and they stopped trying to fix themselves and instead ask one more honest question, what would you say?
Like they're asking
They're asking
themselves a question.
themselves a question. What's the one honest question? They stopped looking at trying to fix. They're like, okay, you got me. I don't need to fix it.
Yeah. I'm back to my favorite question. Well, I have two. The What would happen if is a great question. But there's a song that I dance to all the time, and it's called The Magic Question, the name of the song. How does it get any better than this? But my favorite one is, what would happen if? What would happen if I worked on that? What would happen if I moved? What would happen if? What would happen if? What would happen if I'm not actually broken and this is my process? What would
Absolutely.
happen if I'm not crazy? I'm just in perimenopause. Huh, that's a good question to ask.
Well, and that I can resonate too with that, Barbilee, because in my process, I think I talked about this a lot. I went from feeling like I was broken, looking at how to fix it, realizing it isn't about a fix. And yeah, things that happened, they sucked. They sucked. I made bad decisions, other people made bad decisions, but moving to forgiving it, like, okay, yeah, that sucked. I shouldn't have done that. But okay, I'm going to forgive myself and move on, let go of it. Like, really let go of it, right? And let go of the weight that it carries,
Yeah,
right? We're not erasing it, we're not discounting it. And then what was a huge breakthrough was moving to gratitude for it, right? To actually sit here and be able to say, I am thankful for everything that happened to me in my life, for every bad decision I made, because it had to happen so that I could be the person I am today.
you could have come no other way. Ernest Holmes said that. You could have come no other way.
This has been wonderful, Barbilee. Thank you for coming on Daily Power Boost and sharing your wisdom, your heart, and your experience.
Thank you.
As Barbilee says, life is supposed to be luscious and delicious, juicy and wait,
All of it. Say it all. Use all those words. Whatever works for you, darling.
juicy.
Just
Yeah,
just
it's
just do
life is
it.
to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
So grab a hold of it, enjoy it. That starts by looking at our inner world, the beliefs we have, the rules we've set up. Are they serving or are they not? And this is really appropriate because last year was the year of the snake, which is all about shedding old skins. And this year, do you know what the year is?
Oh, I don't. I do, but
It's
I
the
don't.
fire horse. It was about moving
Ooh.
forward, getting into movement and pressing on.
Okay.
So this was a very appropriate conversation for the new year, 2026.
I'm so
Thanks
glad.
again.
Thanks for
Thanks to
having me.
everyone listening. Be sure to tune in for the next episode, and we'll see you all later. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.